actually going through quite a long journey, and we're very excited today that we have two of the researchers to develop. We call Untitled Chapter, Indonesia, around my this event is hosted by conference of FKP, on which about Indonesia, and we're now at the only building of our FKP of Indonesia, and which is written about by the project of Indonesia and the so I'm going to think a lot about when we reach our participants that we through Zoom, and I'd like to have you connect. I'm digitally connected to them from stage to somehow speaking. In time, there was a which you enjoy. We also have two toilets. Great. We also have one active doorway, in which the doorway you came through, go to work there. We hope that it will not, and nothing happens when we came to it. And for those who join yeah. The instrumentation people, there's a quick column in the room you can pick, and that will help you to join the session. And we will have a session today in English because particularly to put this on the information or like coming from other regions, but also foreign. So I hope we can still learn a lot from our meetings. And yeah, and the reason why the for on this topic is because I know that childcare has been quite a global issue. In 2020, there are 6 million women who were married when they were children. And Indonesia, among other countries, contributing to quite a number of representation. And the four contributing factors to it, including culturally and by other scientific factors, the literature aid to will actually work to internal research. And here, in 1.5 hours, there will be a presentation from the researcher, which is Milda, under the have there before, and there will be also a discussion in which we will have from PUSKAPA, and also open the floor from Zoom and from the other person to share your comment or ask question, and then I will complete the session when we summary. And for the material, there will be people in Zoom can access it through the chat box and our very open material review. Yeah, and without further ado, I would like to introduce two researchers for the study, which is Milda Irhamni, which is a former colleague of mine from Japan. She was the Associate Director of Research Project of Asia, and she also part of their postdoc. Milda is from the and she was an online from University. She is currently leading the study health and education. And the second the teacher, the presenter, Aryo, is currently affiliated with QnA Session on Indonesia, and he is associate professor of economic education. He is passionate about economic education. So now let's talk the floor to
All right, thank you so much. So much for coming, both in person and digitally. And so you are very very rich. I've been in the work for a couple of years, and then we have got patterns that didn't components changing, and it has changed the work that's practically on the. And so the title of the title of the presentation is on top of the village and now village for Indonesia. So I'll start first by thanking and acknowledging our partners with the what without any of we have our president, which is our the wonderful and our movie on for us, we're very grateful for that. I would like to also thank Gadjah for the funding for the pilot and in fact the Gadjah movie for the last year. This study is a hardware of so many people. I want to stop and thank everyone who are expected involved with this study. Particular and rather very traction during the large implementation. So without any hope, we will be talking about the issue. So to put a lot of appreciation for our wonderful team throughout the whole cycle of this program. Now we get to the end of the meeting. So this is our presentation, and I'll go right away to contact the shop. So globally, at least based on the 2026, around 1,000 people live for each living each year. As we all probably know, child marriage has a lot of negative outcomes, pregnancy, rate, even domestic violence. And despite things locally, after education and on policy, as well as general and practice, child marriage remains particularly in 2020 from 1%. From marriage century remains a positive ground in growth. So yes, there is a trend. If you look at the issue context, the trend to make it if you compare to overall time. Put down by all now on which there is a initial about however, the 20 generation marriage rate was higher than the nation. If you look at the Indonesia in the world, Indonesia Bangladesh Nigeria contributes around. In addition, we Indonesia probably really fun. So why does so even though you are the pictures here now, your marriage, just that out from the issue. Why? One of the challenges of marriage is how much of the one factors and money. And potential to be highly big there's no cure for all. So this is evidence to all this Relationship can work into how to mention which are that really have a similar should be information. However, when it comes to the next level, Bangladesh, they have eventually, but only have most people basic meaning that you know they remain active which average of the growth. So this drives home why contact matters to the issue of community. And if you look for example, you know, that is that usually marriage people. So that's why if you look at most of the practices, marriage. So if you look at the published transformation, we were actually there is a limit to public research on organization in Asia. If you look at the global literature, most of the application is concentrated only on accomplished institutions and that is look at the type of programs that have been developed most on variation of transfers or community. In the context of years of very few years. So we don't know actually so based on the current population. And so what you and I can do is that we decided to take a level mostly because we want to be religion in our education. So our study approach and vision of spending information in targeted source of language actions. So in particular, our study tries to drive one underlying factors of marriage in Indonesia. If we look at the current situation of marriage in Indonesia, in general, there are four main factors private practice of marriage. The first is so converting is value. The most important part, the reason why people parents or even children for marriage because they want to become enough. So for those who want that they forget and it's like very physical touch among different genders. So we can encompass they have to go as holding hands to touch your system. But when we talk about issues of marriage, most people got married early, most parents, you know, sexual vision was outside. That's why it's
Kita kutip ya, solusi yang dapat diterima. Dalam segala bentuknya, pelaku perkawinan anak pada umumnya hanya berfokus pada keuntungan jabatan
information campaign, or we want to interact with this present bias, particularly we want to interact reciprocally this present bias, real bias, and we also sort of directly address the fear of which identity of generation. So that basically the content. Now, in short, we aims to have the impact of informal. Now, in terms of the results, I'll start first by explaining why we started to bring to media. So, because actually, this kind of use as a tool for the being attractive and there has been a lot of studies for the gender experts. So that is a potential for video to, change a lot of perception and change a lot of social life. And so from this situation, that basically become the basis for all behavior causes information campaign. The first is that the study found that informal studies of many of which is especially if we want to try to know how we think of it. And then the second one is video stage resolve, such that this kind of themselves in the use of the next. And the last two, I think, are the two most important. So videos need to present arguments from the so because a lot of videos usually only present the point of view of the outside. So this studies has found actually issue for both parties. So that's why in our study video, we also use the argument for the benefit of digital language. But in the end, it is to be resolved that the final decision. So there are a lot of aspects involved in just creating a campaign itself. So in terms of our message, these are the two messages that are contained. So we created two versions of the movie. One version is the secular version, which has no and it has only and then we create another
the expansion or expanded version of the movie, where it will include, well, it will address the person. So in terms of
Terus
aku dilamar. Terus dia nunjukin beberapa perhiasannya.
Lulus sampai langsung dinikahkan aja gimana?
Bapak ki ngomong apa toh? Terus aku dilamar. Terus aku dilamar. Terus aku dilamar. Aku dilamar. Terus dia nunjukin beberapa perhiasannya.
Lulus sampai langsung dinikahkan aja gimana?
Bapak ki ngomong apa toh?
Menikah itu besar tanggung jawabnya. Usiamu secara mental belum cukup matang.
Istiana udah belajar. Kalau kita nikah, berarti Istiana nggak lanjut SMA dong.
Menikahkan anak di usia masih sekolah itu namanya bukan tanggung jawab, Pak. Tapi itu namanya lari dari tanggung jawab.
is our second intervention. So because we could not just not give them, so we created a short video, unrelated at all to technology, that will be given to all of the. And because when we conducted this was during the height of the pandemic, so we decided that a short video at the beginning really about the COVID-19 prevention. So for the control group, we will try monitoring the COVID-19 prevention video. And then for the first treatment group, then we get a video that only contains messages about the cause of knowledge and the effects of the one group, which is 2 million, all of the intervention, which is the how message, the short intervention really about the cause of marriage, and then we will have an advanced version, which includes the message that shows in the children. So now, when we decided where to do our study, we had to strike a balance between making sure that we have enough junior high schools, and then our study area have a lot of issues with child marriage. So in the end, we decided on these 6 districts, 2 in Central Java, and then 4 in East Java. As you can see, the child marriage is really here. All about the national average, with the highest one is in Irhamni at 41%. So, because of COVID, we had word intervention and we are a general lecture. So everything is moving. So in the middle of the intervention in schools, we tried to get growth. Through a program that is called Survey of Youth and Patient Health. And because parents are able to reach out marriage, parents are able to become marriage actors, so we could manage our interventions. And we collaborate with FKP and group as our partner, and the offices provide a lot of support for intervention. And we utilize WhatsApp. Basically, I think we have WhatsApp. And we connect with survey for the intervention. And a lot of the survey conducted the intervention with WhatsApp. And then after the intervention, we conduct a follow-up survey. All of the WhatsApp. WhatsApp has helped us a lot. And this is so, because the most important part of our study is measuring the perceptions, so we put a lot of thought in terms of trying to identify how to measure the perception. So we decided on 3 criteria of primary perception. The first is the awareness of memory behavior, and then there is memory benefits of memory. And so, these are elements that we contain inside of each of the areas that we're going to use. So, of course, we create areas like MLM is based on the institution. And then we develop the institution so we can generate specialists to make sure that it's generally aware and fix the context of the region. And then the assessment has to be on scale. And because this is our perceptions, sometimes it really depends. So we utilize that analysis to do that. And we do some process track from different areas to ensure that our estimated results are consistent across different index across different estimation. And then we also estimate the outlet And then last our tested analysis to make sure that everything are consistent and robust. So this instruments, so we're confident about the instrument because it has been going through a lot of steps. So for the next and then the final part, I will begin to call our favorite.
Thank you so much for the so I don't know whether this is a part or not, but that's what it was. Thank you for having this knowledge and something that I'll joke about. I'll take that. So for that, talk about the empirical so that's key results of this program. And then start with the basic characteristics as well as checks distribution that moving all the process. So we use the so the second respondent in our experiment were girls aged 14 and they were in the 8th grade of junior high school. And given the design, we told them in school, but then people cross and watch it watch the protection. So almost 90% have experienced their first webinar, so we regard it as symptomatic. And around a third of the participants have participated in some form of such textual education, both by evidence, by the schools, or for example, from the local participants provision. The typical participant perceives that the long age of marriage for girls is around 20 years, while ideal age of marriage was found. We also find that the typical respondent also perceives that the age is considered too young for marriage, which is around 17 years old, which is lower than the minimum age as yes, so what are the reasons for when we look at the literature, we have the negative outcomes of this new so reading relatively early. Hopefully will allow on particular history. Okay. And then we also asked several questions in the instruments to find out who have the authority in making child marriage or marriage decisions within a household. So as we probably could guess, parents have to make authority to make the decisions. About 87% of the girls perceive that their fathers have the right, although about 65% of the girls perceive that the mothers also have a similar right. What's interesting is that, we're not sure whether this is specific to Indonesia, exclusively for Indonesia, but we find that a third of the participants perceive that they themselves actually have some right over child marriage decision. And what's interesting is that we also, as Milda mentioned, also did the same experiment with parents, and particularly we also asked who has the right to do this child marriage decisions, and we find similar results that overall parents that have the authority, but the kids, the children themselves can also have rights to the marriage decision. We did a balance check over all the key outcomes during the baseline. So the key outcomes are the perception of the benefits of child marriage, the perception on the risk of child marriage, also perception on the benefits of delaying child marriage, as well as the overall index. And since we have two treatment arms and one control, we do the balance check. Treatment 1 versus control, treatment 2 versus control, to make sure that things works. In general, things are quite balanced. Moving forward, we can be sure that we can identify the impact. So for the empirical strategy, we find that not all of the respondents reported that they completed watching the video intervention. So this is more of a intention to treat estimation, so ITP. For many different reasons, it could be the fact that it was quite difficult for them to get internet signals, so quality was not as well for this subset of children to be able to watch and complete. It could also be the fact that they may not have a device exclusively to themselves. It could be a device that they borrow from their parents, their brothers or their sisters. That would, made it difficult for them to actually watch the video. So that index those be the outcomes of interest. The indices that Milda has mentioned. We also control for the analog index during the baseline. And in the literature, studies have also tried to control for social desirability scale, to control the fact that perhaps I would try to and some items that would be close to what is prescribed in social norms. So we created a scale given the responses given by the participants, and then we include that as a control. We also include growth stage, whether they have experienced their first menarche, whether girls have reported receiving sexual education, grade fixed effects, implementation batch, fixed effects, as well as different. And we also clustered the standard errors and the student. We did some tests and then robustness checks just to make sure that the estimates are not sensitive to changes in specification, the outcome variables. So first, we have the same specification with indices predicted by the confirmatory factor analysis as well as needs from the summative index. We also ran subgroup analysis based on the social desirability scales. So from the estimated scale, we divide them into two subgroups, high social desirability scale and then low social desirability scale. And then we find that there is no significant difference between these two subgroups. We also did subgroup analysis among respondents who reported watching the short movie intervention until they completed, and we don't find that significant of a difference. And lastly, we found some attrition. So when they participated in the baseline, not everyone continued to completing the movie and then answering the midline instrument. So we do have some attritions, which I think was around 20-ish%, which is what was predicted when we do the power calculation. And so for that, we did some regression-based attrition tests to make sure that this attrition, there's no differential attrition between treatment groups, and then differential attrition between the treatment and then the control. I also want to mention that since we're going to be testing multiple hypotheses, we also check for multiple hypothesis testing, and it doesn't affect the adjusted p-values. We also ran a placebo test on one perceived social norm related to child marriage, as well as perceived women's agency. These are the controls that are not exclusively targeted by the short movie intervention. We also did additional experiments. So instead of not only that we do it on girls and parents, but we also do it among boys. In such a way that boys are not really targeted by the short movie intervention. All right, so going through the results, the first one that we'd like to share is the effect of providing this information about risks, as well as benefits of delaying child marriage to address the issue of present bias. So here we're testing the first treatment to the control group. And while we don't find a significant effect of the treatment on the perception on the benefits of child marriage, we find that the short movie intervention improved the perception related to the risks, as well as the benefits of delaying child marriage. And we find the same effect when we tested the impact of the comprehensive information messages that include both messages about addressing present biasness as well as religious values. So here we're testing the second treatment with the control group. And we find that Unlike the first treatment, the second treatment was able to affect the perception of the benefits of child marriage. So here, the estimated sign is negative. It means that the treatment induces them to actually think that there is less benefit on the child marriage decision. But the sign of the estimated coefficients are quite consistent for the perceived risk and also the perceived benefits of delaying child marriage. Yeah,
so the benefit is actually less possible to
yeah. So I guess for the first column is that the intervention induces them to think that there is less benefit of child marriage.
so
There's less benefits of child marriage, but there is there is a higher, a better perception on the benefits of delaying child marriage.
there is a higher rate of delay.
Oh, so the way that we interpret it is more on they have a better perception on the risks related to child marriage.
Okay. So that is your way of looking at it. But the fact is that we got that we're going to be honest with them.
I see. So, I'm just trying to explore a bit more. So, what Abudi is saying is that they perceive that there is more risk associated with child marriage, given the estimated coefficient.
Yeah, so I think it's important.
Can you use the make it applicable on
I think it has to be considered how the respondent actually interpret your experience. So if it is saying that they interpret that all this experiment means that I got more benefit of delay.
Right.
So then if you go to the risk, then they say that, well, I got more risk of delay, which is not consistent.
It's actually not more risk of delay. It's they perceive that if I were to marry right now, I would be facing more risk. Or I have more better understanding of that.
I understand that, but the truth is that you need to explain that actually they're not switching interpretation of your experiment.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that is switching. The first one is the interpretation of watching is that delaying, but the interpretation of risk is actually if they do that, which is not consistent.
I see.
And you ask at the same time.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Babu. Yeah. Okay. We'll think about it. Yeah. Okay. Just so to continue, we also tested whether the addition information that tries to address the perceived religious codes is effective in changing the perception. So in general, we don't find a significant effect of just adding the religious message in the short movie intervention. We find a relatively big effect on the impact of the additional religious values, but in general, we didn't find significant difference on the impact on the perceptions. And we attempted to go through, the items that we asked, which is the base of the indices that we constructed. So there is a disadvantage of doing this particular analysis in the sense that for the items themselves, it was score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But here we actually created a binary variable to identify whether they agree or they disagree with the particular statement. And so we're focusing here on the items that is based on the index regarding the risks as well as the benefits of delaying child marriage. So we find that the short movie interventions mainly affect girl perceptions for school enrollment. So it's about girls who marry below 18 cannot return to school. So that's one risk associated with child marriage. Another risk associated with child marriage is that I will lose valuable time with my friends after marriage. And in terms of the perception, the delaying child marriage, we can see that there were effects, 2 items. The first one is girls are more likely to pursue further education if they delay child marriage. And then girls can participate in societal activities, they can participate in community activities if they delay child marriage. So we find that the effects of the interventions are mostly on these items. So we can rule out that some of the items are also moved by the intervention, but perhaps because we take away some of the variation on the scores, 1 to 6, and then just shrink it into a binary variable, perhaps it would also affect the estimation. We also get a placebo test, as mentioned. So first, it's the treatment effects of girls' perceived social norms, as well as women's agency. So the movies, the short movie interventions, the messages that we related in the short movie intervention doesn't really related to social norms as well as women's agency. So we can predict that it should not move their perception in these two spheres. So we do find that there is no effect in this indices. And we also did additional experiments among boys. So when we do the experiments for girls and parents, we also do it on boys. And in particular, we'd like to test whether the intervention and the informational messages that is curated mainly for girls also affect the boys. And here we don't find any significant effect of the 2 treatments on the boys' perceptions regarding the benefits of child marriage and then the risks associated with child marriage as well as perceived benefits of delayed marriage. Since Milda also mentioned that parents are actually quite key actor in child marriage decisions, so we thought that I think it would be really beneficial if we also have an experiment with the parents. And so we tried to recruit parents for the intervention, although it was quite difficult in the sense that while they provide things for the children to participate, it was quite difficult for them to take part in the experiment. And so we had actually higher than rather than girls. So I think the estimated effects of the treatments are somewhat consistent with girls, but what we observe is that the informational campaign actually induces parents to have a better perception regarding the risks associated with child marriage. And so if you think that there is an impact on the overall perception regarding child marriage, the impact is mainly driven and mostly driven by a better perception on the risk related to child marriage. Okay. So going to the conclusion as well as the policy implication. So as Milda has mentioned, although Indonesia still have a lot of the high child marriage rate, published research on this issue is quite limited. We've also identified that the government as well as NGOs, they've done actually many campaigns to address the issue of child marriage. However, it remains unclear which programs are effective in changing perceptions and ultimately, improving educational outcomes and health outcomes due to lack of impact evaluation process. Our study of knowledge is the first, or one of the first, to conduct impact evaluation in Indonesia. And here in this particular study, we use short movie intervention, which we delivered via WhatsApp. And we find that it could be cost effective and could potentially impact perception on child marriage. So we take a different approach by trying to influence perceptions, and hopefully with a better perceptions, we'd like to test whether this particular intervention would affect the educational outcomes, such as whether they completed junior high school, whether they continue their education into high school, and don't know what's possible during the end line, which is going to be a follow-up study, but we'd like to also explore the potential health outcomes. We've also focused on informational campaigns to scale up possibility, as well as relatively low-cost intervention. And the result shows that information campaigns through edutainment cater to the target audience, in this particular case, girls and parents, may have significant impact on the perception regarding child marriage issues. So I guess I want to make 2 points here due to time constraint. We find that impact of information campaigns of child perception, indicating that child marriage actors are still unaware of the costs as well as the benefits of delaying the practice. It means that a more intensive and targeted informational campaigns needs to be conducted to disabuse actors of any perceived benefits of the practice. And some of the key messages that future informational campaigns should consider are emphasizing using the opportunity to pursue education, as well as using valuable time with their friends and communities. I just want to make one quick point. I know that I'm running out of time, but we've had these discussions with several NGOs. We also had discussions with Islamic clerks, and we had some, notes on the pros and cons of providing intervention that would try to address perceived religious codes. And so, what this intervention, what our interventions show is that there's actually not backlash related to the implementation of messages trying to address perceived religious codes. And so, since religion is, frequently cited as one of the underlying factors of child marriage, we believe that, we can try to further examine the power of religions effectively. But at least, we find that there is no specific backlash. Also, the results show that parents are mostly affected through the perceived risk of child marriage. Okay, so I'm running out of time. Again, on behalf of the team, we would like to thank you for the opportunity to present, and we're going to be really happy to take some questions and comments from Santi. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Milda, and also Gumilang, for participation. It's a very comprehensive presentation about the studies at the beginning until the result. And I would like to invite Santi and also to discuss about the science in Indonesia to provide comments or observations to the presentation of the Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Milda. Please, once again, congratulate Milda and Gumilang, the whole team. Finalizing such an important study, and it takes so many years. Well, Gumilang sort of spilled a bit, saying that I would share with you some anecdotes regarding the study. So I'm gonna meet that
invitation. So I was joking that to Milda and this is one of the like a full circle study, because when it was starting, Milda and Gumilang met with PUSKAPA, one of the organizations that Milda and Gumilang discussed with, and then now it's sort of ending with some comments from the conference. All right. Well, I'm going to begin by basically total disclosure. I'm not going to be commenting on the study. I think my takeaways would be more of an invitation for us to continue having this conversation about child marriage, because it's complex, it's difficult, but it's really important to have. So please bear with me for not, I think, offering anything intelligent or intellectual on the studies that we have presented. I think first of all, I'd like to acknowledge that any methods would have their own merits. So I'm not going to be commenting on the research methodology, but I'd like to always begin by a self-reflection that science works within the limits of its objectives. And so I think the study makes this way. That being said, I have about 6 takeaways, if you bear with me. My first takeaway is that we know from the very sophisticated formulation and calculation that Gumilang and Milda have presented, at the end of the day, information and messaging can only do so much. I think that would be my first takeaway. At best, what we've seen from the study is that the correct messaging and information might make key actors in child marriage division can think about the idea of child marriage. But whether this new skepticism then leads to like actual delaying of marrying their young kids, or even kids themselves wanting to marry, it's another, I think, another question that warrants further investigation. Or we might actually admit that it's probably a too complex of a pathway to investigate. So I think that would be my first sort of takeaway. The second one is that Milda and Gumilang presented the 4 underlying factors of child marriage. I agree with you, but I think maybe it's time for us to also consider the more favorite factor, and that is the lack of, this is just my own conceptualization, the lack of socially and morally acceptable avenues for children to exercise and express social independence. And that may involve romantic relationships. So I think if we continue to morally judge intimate expression by children as totally negative, totally wrong, and then we might have a few challenges ahead of us in really introducing what Milda, Gumilang, and the team as ideas of cost that will outweigh the benefits of change. Because the whole idea is to bring upon this realization that, oh, it might be more beneficial for me to delay marriage rather than doing it now. But then we need to consider the 5th factor, which is children's desire to also have like social empathy and relationship that is morally and socially. My third takeaway is that it's interesting because you introduce the values as well. I'm just wondering if maybe this is like, all my takeaways are an invitation for us to do a whole study. We may need to interrogate gender bias within those religious values. And what I mean is that in your study, you offered an alternative narrative, right, of these religious values. But I think back, and of course, my suspicion is to be tested. It's not about obligation versus sunnah, but it's more about halal versus haram. And that's another different ballgame. and the whole complexities of child protection. That's it. My point is that because we're talking about teenagers, we're talking about children, I wonder if we should also consider maybe mediating factors. Milda bilang that relates more to decision-making process. Because we know that decision-making process is what it composed of whether your thinking is more intuitive or strategic, right? Or whether you have overconfidence or you're acting based on like impulsive behavior, or whether you're thinking of a short-term reward versus long-term risk. And this whole decision-making processes sort of intersect with the fact that we're dealing with teenage babies. And we know the science, like more and more in science, that up to maybe 23, 24-year-olds, we as human beings really cannot make the executive decision that considers all of those things we expect human beings to consider when making decisions. Like, oh, the risk is bigger than the benefits I'm going to delay. No, because what we need to also consider is what considered reward for these teenagers that perhaps has something to do with the social intimacy and relationship they need to develop. This is a provocation. The fifth one is that I'm also interested in the fact that we have identified parents as people who children themselves think have something to do with deciding marriage. But when it comes to social norms, there's American group, and there's people who you think can make decisions for you, and those two people might be different. So while we know that children consider parents to be people who can make decisions for them, it doesn't necessarily mean that they also consider their reference. So people's opinions really matter, behavior really they mirror and mimic. That can be their celebrities on Instagram who also marry young, by the way. And the sixth, my last takeaway is that I think we always need to consider ethics. Studies, it is important, but also I'd like to also remind ourselves that whenever we do studies that inspire children to have educational aspirations, it always needs to be matched with actual opportunities to pursue them. Otherwise, we are making things maybe harmful, even more harmful for them. And therein lies the obligation to make sure that we do not set married girls and boys away from this opportunity. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Santi, for the comment and the takeaways. Thanks for that. And I would like to invite the women that also might be like you have, or you want to respond to them.
Okay, thank you so much, Santi. Yeah, very excited with all of the key takeaways, from our research, and we do believe that there are several interesting follow-ups that do on the course of this particular study, or perhaps in another opportunity. So as I probably mentioned, this is actually a part of a study that still extends for sometimes. We aim to have another follow-up study to identify the long-term effects of the intervention, particularly on their educational as well as their health outcomes. And it would also be interesting if you find whether or not it's the perception still sticks given all of these periods after the intervention. So I guess I would like to first respond to the hidden fit factor, and this is actually something that we identified. So some of the themes actually provide a more or less a picture or a portrait that these two individuals, the boy and the girl, have some intimate moments. Although given the audience, it's still within the limits. But we do believe that it was there were pros and cons showing that particular scene. But we believe that it's something that's happening. I think a lot of teenagers have experienced that particular moment. So we decided to put that particular intimate scene, during the movie. Yes, so it's actually a pretty important factor as well. And not having a space in the community or in the social norms to actually show that would perhaps be an important factor. Also regarding to the gender bias, we've had a lot of discussions with clerks, with Bataya Tengku, and also with some NGOs. So we had a comment, I think we don't want to fight fire with fire, something like that. So we try to be subtle in the message in such a way that we were hopeful the messages would be somewhat received by the audience. We also want to try to minimize the probability of backlash given the religious message. And so since also the audience was not only girls but also parents, so that was our main consideration. That's why we were quite decisive. I think it should be about education versus numbers. But I think it's interesting to explore further whether a stronger message regarding the perceived religious quote will actually be effective in changing their perception. That's actually a very good hypothesis. Yes, we do have some limitations on the mediating factors that we can explore given the setup as well as given the design of the study. We had a lot of questions already in the instruments, and we were aware that there is time limitations faced by the kids. They may not have their own cell phone. They probably borrow it from their parents, or they probably borrow it from their siblings. And so we want to make it relatively short and sweet for this audience. But we do find your takeaways would be quite important in further identifying what are some of the longer-term risks as well as the short-term benefits, as well as the parents. So I think from the initial stage of the design, we do believe that there are other opportunities. We are, I think, aware of the vaccination study, whereby study they try to use celebrities or publicly also individuals who would be influential in making people change their minds. But at the same time, I think there were movements to marry early at the same time by some figures. So we don't want to go into that space whereby these individuals will we're trying to pit this group against the other. And so try to make it specific on the actors within a particular household, and those are but yeah, I think that's an interesting avenue for us to explore. And thank you so much for the last point. Again, everyone, this is quite important. When we think about intervention, we also have to think about what will be next after this sort of intervention. It's quite difficult as we have any something like direct connection in some way during the experiment because it was rapidly done. But yes, we believe that with the connections that were established between the research team as well as the Dinas Pendidikan as well as the Partai and there could be potential scale up. So eventually, this field could hopefully reach a wider audience, but at the same time, we can try to think about potential opportunities with this particular institution. I think they were all quite excited, but so I would try to invite Milda to the discussion.
Yes, Santi, for you. I won't add much, but I think what I want to emphasize that, as I mentioned in the introduction, that child marriage is a complex issue. So this intervention won't solve it. So what we mean by this intervention is to be considered as a first step. Because what I want people to take away from the intervention is that there's not been a lot of information campaign. Right now, it's not clear what kind can actually produce the perception. So what I want to take away with this is that if you want to make an information campaign, you need to carry their audience. You need to know your audience. Otherwise, it will be just like a train of many videos. Okay. So, and I think regarding all comments, what is obvious that there are needs for more study, and then just examine what kind of programs can be, can help reduce the child marriage rate in Indonesia. And this study hopefully will, start more studies, and hopefully there are more serious efforts to actually examine the effectiveness of any program related to the issue. Again, that's all.
Okay, thank you so much, Santi, for the comments, and also Ms. Gilang and also Milda for responding to these comments. And now I would like to invite to the bigger audience here in person or in Zoom, whether they have questions. Okay, I have one. We have several questions from Lydia and also quite a general from here. I'll start with the. Hi, this is not my questions, but online on Zoom. So we have more than 70 people following earlier on Zoom. One of the questions is from Daniel Suriada, which I believe is following from Japan. Hi, Tokyo. So thank you for the presentation. It's very interesting. Two questions. Why do you need to include a lot of control variables? What do the results look like if only the necessary control variables, for example, fixed effect, are included? And number two, are you planning to follow up in the future to see the actual impact on marriage? The second one is from Ibu Maria Yosefa dari Kabupaten Sika, Maumere. Thank you, Ibu Maria, for coming to the FKP today. Ibu Maria asks, where did you get the age of marriage data? Because we in the era, and the place is difficult to obtain such data, so they only use, we use data of pregnancy under 20 years. The second is that in some areas, people with Muslim religion have a lot of child marriage, but it's not listed in the QnA.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to both. My name is Anthony. I'm from Federal Research Institute. Again, young man. First of all, I agree wholeheartedly with such a complex issue actually child marriage. And we were talking before, after, we can also talk about poverty being one of the factors definitely of child marriage. We can talk about the fact of access to education of these girls. We can talk about the dimensions of gender inequality now because of these gender inequality and girls have less economic opportunities, for example, and so that they have to rely on certain people, which means that for sure I also agree with you, Milda, yeah. That this will not be like a one hit wonder, like one size fits all.
Because interventions to increase education, interventions to reduce gender inequality and poverty reduction, all that comes into play, of course, into reduction of child marriage. But I think what you're doing is great because it is one of the key issues, the lack of awareness of the problem to begin with, because culture, habits, Christian values, and so on. I think what was also mentioned is that how can we ensure that the intervention that is currently being developed is actually scalable, sustainable, and have a lasting impact? Because, as mentioned by Mada, sometimes it's not only the girl themselves, or even the parent to play like what we or what the girl decide to do, or what their parents decide to do. And so perhaps like a stakeholder mapping of who actually is really, really responsible in sort of which one's experience in child marriage would probably be beneficial, in my opinion. Also, I was just wondering, what are some of your biggest challenges? Because this is such a sensitive issue. Not only because we're talking about child marriage, we're talking about religion, and we're talking about sex, three very sensitive topics. And you were talking about there was some pushback, but I want to hear more of that story. Like, how much pushback did you receive, and what kind of euphemism you have to use? In order to offend anyone. And I have some, sorry, I have a long question and comments, but can you talk about sort of social demographic patterns on who actually have the right child marriage? Because in studying that I have read, especially children with disabilities, for example, are very prone to this kind of sexual violence and including child marriage. I was just wondering whether there are different groups, because girls or women is a large group. There are multiple groups below that are even more marginalized than who sort of accomplish the most in this situation. That's all of my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Hi, Tokyo. This is what to have a meeting tomorrow. It's probably enjoying Harry Blossom quite soon. So yes, so two things I guess about the emission controls. One is about the estimated coefficients. So we do some balance checks with the controls as well on the baseline variables. We don't find any significant difference across controls, and so that wouldn't affect the estimated coefficient when we include these controls in the estimation. So I guess it's more about coefficient, but even without the control variables, we can still identify the effects, so it's quite consistent. Thank you, Daniel, for reminding us. So, we've been, talking about identifying educational outcomes as well as health outcomes, whether their perception still sticks during the potential headline study. But marriage practice is also, the good outcomes to explore. So thank you so much. Hi, Maria from Sikai, I guess. It's a long way. Did you have a chance to visit Sikai when you were to end the day? Okay, so but hopefully we'll be able to visit Sikai one day. So, Maria, one potential data set that you can use is the National Socio-Economic Survey, Kusumaningrum. There you can identify the age of marriage, I believe. We also have the Indonesian Life Survey, from which you can try to identify the age of marriage as well. And in those data sets, you'll be able to identify whether they were pregnant, at a particular age. Although it needs to do some workarounds, but you can definitely use it. Yes. We also, during our needs assessment problem identification process, we find that there are a lot of unreported child marriage. So I think we had this conversation earlier. You can go the legal way if you have the age, according to the law. If you're still below the legal age of marriage, you can go to the Kawah and then request for a dispensation. It's to the court, exactly, to the court. And we saw that there is a significant increase in the number of requests for dispensation during COVID-19 pandemic. So that's another interesting fact as well. But then the third is that just don't go to the cow, don't go to the court to request dispensation, and then just go with the, for example, the families and then the custody. Exactly. So yeah, well, we don't have the number, but I believe there are reports that try to estimate the custody. So that's something that you can look into. So thank you so much, Anthony. Yes, poverty is actually a big thing, and a significant determinant of child marriage. A lack of opportunities, a lack of access to education, also plays an impact, I guess. But we really can't touch that. Given we want to target a robust prevention, so really expected for us to think about what prevention that would affect them economically. But there's a study by Erica Field and Bo. So they did a combination of incentive as well as, if I'm not mistaken, close empowerment program. So the incentive was in the form of if you delay, I think marriage by certain months, you could get some monetary compensation. I think so. So monetary compensation in terms of cooking oil, if I'm not mistaken. So in the context of Bangladesh, they found that the incentives actually work. What else? Yes, so a couple of points. It gets about the scalability. So we find that first, I think the intervention, the information messages that was curated in our intervention would probably be relevant for the context of Central Java as well as East Java. But if you go to West Java, for example, things would get quite different. And of course, it's not going to be that, it's not going to be that significantly relevant if you move to, for example, South Carolina, or for example, if you move to Kalimantan or to Sulawesi, that could be context specific, that would be quite significant. But I guess the points of benefits delay as well as understanding about the increase is something that would be universal in some sense.
Just a quick question. Just a quick question. So, who do you see taking a leading role in scaling up this intervention?
Yeah, I guess for the context of Central Java as well as East Java, it could be a leader significant in collaboration with the Pattaya. So we make sure that during the implementation of the intervention, we also think about who would be the one delivering it still support that we had that chance to go. So the collaboration with Pattaya and Gumilang was actually quite important. Pattaya was driving the discussions with the teams. So I have one more point before I give this to Milda. So yes, we had to make sure that we talk with a lot of people to get different perspectives, not only on what could be effective, but also the do's and don'ts. So in one of our FGDs, which I think was a likely FGD at that time, NGO mentioned that it's going to be quite risky if you try to fight fire in the sense that you try to put religious messages out there. So that's kind of like the type of course why you want to make a message quite subtle. So I will give this to Milda. Thank you.
So I think I will just a couple of things. I think one of the key takeaways from the whole effect that we've done is that whatever information campaign that we're going to do, it needs to be context-centric and it needs to convey to your audience. Our results shows that our information campaigns has the target groups and it effectively has for the impact. It means that there is such a thing as information campaign that can target all people, all. So basically, whatever information campaign that we're going to do, it needs to be context-centric and you really need to know your audience. And the last part about, who are the most vulnerable to child marriage. Actually, we do like a companion study just to see child marriage issues for people with disabilities, and it's a whole different ballgame. And we really like that we cannot even survey. I think our biggest learning from this whole process is how much child marriage issues is still under research in Indonesia, especially if we talk about a very specific vulnerable population. If we talk about a child with disabilities, it's like a hidden iceberg. It's like really like when we did a companion study, we have it in the study. It's hidden. Children on the street, and then other vulnerable populations. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this issue, and I think that is the biggest takeaway from the whole process that we've been conducted. And we thought that we knew mostly what the issue is. And each time when we actually face the reality, there are a lot of control basically. And I think one of the interesting part is that when we did the intervention, one of the students actually reacted negatively to the intimate depiction in the movie. So when we decided to create a movie, we debated whether which animal should we take. And that's why the visit to Kusumaningrum was very important, because that visit basically dictated the narration that we decided, the direction that we decided to create the messaging of it. And one of the students, when we showed the internet situation, and they were like, oh, that's so good, this is like, they reacted quite negatively, that we found that during the pilot. So we found that quite interesting, but what we tried to do in the movie is that we tried because of the potential of backlash, we tried to make the message, especially the religion part, quite subtle. So that's why we offer a very basic option in the because we found that, we just don't want charge money so, and then we tried not to be like morally judgmental in the movie. So, for example, we showed them dating, and we tried to make it like normal, but we don't try to make it like, oh, it's sinful, that kind of stuff. So we tried to make it, so that's why when we did Kusumaningrum, we made sure we meet with teenagers to know what is, what are their opinions and stuff. So we used to joke that basically what we tried to do in the short movie, we tried to create a Gumilang message. So that's so if you don't know what Gumilang is, it's a very big movie among teenagers. They all try to emulate whatever happened in that movie. So we tried to create a deal with a message that we want. I guess that's all.
Just 20 seconds. So also the vulnerable groups are students not in schools. So we did this experiment, among both school, but there are probably 50%, 20% boys and girls who are not enrolled in junior high. So those are
Okay, we already passed the time actually, but I'm going to give an opportunity. Okay. maybe let's comment a little bit and then I'll offer the question. Okay, just a quick comment on the data, because this is very important, and marriage registration data is actually a very, very useful source to get an actual incidence number of child marriage. But there's a caveat. To be able to get your child marriage registered, you get to have or allow the marriage dispensation for. And I think it's just a warning for all of us, because there's always a downside of making the dispensation by judge in religious law or more difficult, that more and more child marriage will happen in secret, in hiding places, and not registered, and it makes us miss the whole figure of child marriage. The second is to be able to get the data on married children, we need to destigmatize married children. It's always like, I always want to warn this and make this also a sharp reminder that while we want to stigmatize child marriage, let's not stigmatize married children. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think it's a very good topic. I just one concern. If I'm not mistaken, your intention is to deliver online, so it's not directly. So I'm wondering whether the result of the study is written because of the intention, or maybe because of the session. Because nowadays it's easy for us to watch and compare your movies or other similar movies. That may influence the perception of your subject. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, one more question.
Yeah, could you explain why the treatment doesn't work on boys? I thought that the benefit, even if it's like only the next day they don't pregnant, but I think the benefit.
So for the first question, I think whether you do this online or offline, we cannot avoid to have children getting affected by various sources during the intervention, because with YouTube, TikTok, social media, I don't know what is being current. It's just unavoidable. So that's why we do it at the randomized knowledge experiment. So we hope that whatever our influence, it will be mostly influence our target audience similarly. So they will balance out. So whatever impact that we have here is because of our intervention, not because of the base. I think that's the beauty of the randomized evaluation. Two questions then. Oh, okay. So the way we create the messaging in the short movie, it really cares for girls and parents. So it doesn't carry any perception or point of view from the boys. So if we look at the literature on the videos, usually those that will affect the most are those that can put their cheese in the decision-making process. So in the movie, the whole decision-making process only happens with girls and parents. So that's why we use the voice as some sort of the possible. So because we want to know whether they are not targeted at all by the movie. So whether a message that are not targeted to this specific audience can move this audience. And we found out that it actually cannot. So we actually hope that we can move the voice even if the message is not captured to them at all. There's no perception from the voice. So basically the voice only acts as, the voice, and that's it. The boyfriend and the one who proposed, that's the extent of his role. That's true, yes.
adopting, not with.
Oh,
I mean, this is I think Pak Budi, most of the cases happen between girls and adult males. So I think that's also
yeah.
I was not one of the researchers.
Yeah, I think just to add, I don't know, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the average difference in age between about 5 to 6 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the discussion. I know I think we made a lot of attention to it, and thank you so much for the presentation from Milda and also the discussion from everyone in the group and also in Zoom. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to provide any remark. I think it's already encapsulating all the session today. So I want to let you know, thank you so much, and the committee will send email and also material from the presentation. And for the people on Zoom, you can access them through the chat box. So yeah, have a great afternoon, and yeah, see you next time. Thank you. Yeah, for the audience here, we are inviting you to enjoy the snacks. It'll be fine. And also, we want to stay carry. Yeah, thank you.
So